Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I want to discuss our agreement that we recently signed with the Department of Justice concerning the School Resource Officer Program here at Richland County, and maybe talk about some things that may be misconceptions about it. And I guess the first one is that this was something that was forced on us. And that's not correct. I think a lot of times when people think about the federal government and an agency works with them, that it's something bad. This is actually something very good and something very positive. And that's how we're looking at it, and that's how the Department of Justice is looking at it also. This was not something that we were made to do. This is something that was voluntarily, mutually agreed upon in the cover letter and also in the agreement. That's spelled out quite evident that the Office of Civil Rights and the Richland County Sheriff's Department mutually agreed to enter into the enclosed voluntary resolution agreement prior to the completion of their investigation. And it goes on to say that they launched this compliance review initiative to evaluate whether SRO programs, including the Sheriff's Department, comply with civil rights. So it just wasn't our department that was looked upon. This was a national examination of school resource officers programs across the state, across the United States, and one of them was selected was ours. So it wasn't something that we were just selected because there were major issues here. Also, I guess whenever somebody says there's been an agreement, people are asking, what did we do wrong? What violations do we have? And we were not told that we had any violations. They initiated this audit and review of us, and during that, we discussed a lot of issues. It goes on to say in the cover letter and throughout the agreement is that how we fully cooperated and how much they appreciated our cooperation. They thank us and thank me and our staff for our cooperation. So this was something that we were working together. It was not an adversarial audit. It was not anything adversarial about it whatsoever. It was something that we welcomed, something that we fully participated in. A lot of things that we both saw mutually that we agreed upon. And before they ever got finished, we said, well, let's just enter into an agreement and let's get all these things down in writing so we can start working on them to make sure that we do the best job that we can. In the agreement, it says that the Richland County Sheriff's Department SROs are committed and will continue to contribute positively to their school communities by serving as mentors and law-related educators, in addition to the responsibilities to protect the safety of students and personnel, school personnel. That's the word of the Department of Justice. That's what they put in there. The Department of Justice also had issues with two areas. The same two issues that I have issues with. Molly Spearman, our school superintendent, has issues with. A lot of parents have issues with. School administrators have issues. And that was that school resource officers were being used as disciplinarians. That we were involved in disciplinary matters and that we should not be. And also the Skirting Schools law that the state of South Carolina has, which is a terrible law. I have talked about it. I've been a advocate that something needed to be done about this Skirting Schools law. It was a terrible law. It's one that's been misused and abused. Department of Justice looked at it and says the same thing. They totally agreed that this is something that shouldn't be in the state of South Carolina. Hopefully by the agreement that we've signed and the efforts that we're taking, they will have an impact on other agencies in the state and also on our legislators. Sadly, we had some efforts this year to do something in Skirting Schools law, but you had certain law enforcement agencies and law enforcement officials who said it didn't need to be changed, and our legislators listened to them and didn't change it. That's sad. That is very sad. It needs to be changed. And that's one thing, is you read this agreement and you read your cover letter, that sticks out probably more than anything else, is that they don't agree with it. The Department of Justice did not agree with us being disciplinarians. Molly Spearman's task force that she had and that they've already voted on agrees the same thing. That's major issues that we've got, that our school resource officers were being used for things they shouldn't be. The Spring Valley incident is something that we have to live with. It was an incident that doesn't define our program or any school resource officer program. That happened in October of last year. We had almost a full school year after that, where there was no issues, no complaints. We had a very good school year. But that one incident, which was a very negative incident, a lot of positive things are going to come out of it. One of the positive things is what we're doing, the Department of Justice, and this voluntary agreement that we've entered into with them. We won't have the best school resource officer program we can. We're going to do everything that we can, and that's my responsibility. My responsibility is not to let the Spring Valley incident define who we are. And one of the ways to do that was enter into this voluntary agreement, Department of Justice, to have a consultant come in that helps us, that works with us, that looks at what we do, how we do it. And that way, nobody can say Richland County Sheriff's Department hasn't done everything they can to make sure that they have the best program. We want the best program. We want our kids to go to school, feel safe, get a good education. We want our teachers to be able to go to school and teach. Now, that's the goal of everybody, and that's what we're working toward, is to reach that goal. We were asked earlier how much money we get from the federal government. In last budget year, we received almost $500,000. This budget year, we received $52,000. So it's not about money. You know, if we would have said, you know, you can have your federal money, we don't need it, that's $52,000. So it's not about us saving money or we're going to lose a bunch of money. This is about doing the right thing, and that's what we want to do. As you read this agreement, as you read the cover letter, again, it goes into detail about how the investigation was never finished. They have not made a determination that there was any non-compliance whatsoever. That's not anywhere in there. So nobody can say that they came in and found a lot of things that we did wrong, or found anything that we did wrong, and that we are correcting it because we have to. This is something that we're doing voluntarily, again, because it's the right thing to do. Received email today from the ACLU where they filed a lawsuit in Charleston against the state of South Carolina and also various law enforcement agencies, to include us. It's about disturbing school law and how it needs to be changed. But I think one thing that's very interesting is Susan Dunn, who's the legal director at ACLU, sent me the email. It says, "Dear Sheriff Lott, as a courtesy, I'm sending you a copy of a complaint that was filed this morning. We are aware that your office has been and will continue to address the issue of disturbing schools in your county. We applaud your efforts. We, however, see this as a statewide issue and challenging the underlying statute." I don't know if I've ever seen the ACLU say the law enforcement officer or an agency did anything good. They're actually congratulating us on the efforts that we have to make sure disturbing schools law gets changed. And we will work with them because it does need to be changed. New York Times today has a big article about it. They talked about a disturbing schools law and how legal experts say that it is the most broadest and vaguest of its kind in the country. I think everybody realizes that disturbing school law needs to be changed, and it does. And we're going to work toward making sure that that happens. And we're going to make sure that we have our officers trained the best they can. This past summer, the National Association of School Resource Officers came in, and they're doing our training for us. We're no longer going to wait on the Criminal Justice Academy. That's just overburdened with trying to train officers throughout the state. We've negotiated with them. They're going to come in and do our training. We just had crisis prevention, intervention training for all of our officers. We've went those extra miles to make sure that we're doing the right thing. As you read through some of the things that we're asking to do, it's things that we're already doing. Department of Justice already recognizes that we're doing, like our Citizens Advisory Council. Nobody else has stuff like that. We have that. That's part of what the review is going to be. So, again, this is something that's very positive. It's not negative. It's something that we voluntarily entered into, because we do want to make sure that we address every situation, every question, every issue, and we make sure that we do it in the right way. Questions?